योगी
मुझे तो कभी समझ में नहीं
परमहंस
आया।
योगानंद। ठीक है, अच्छा
पढ़
तुम क्या
पढ़ के
क्या
देखो। क्या बोल रही हो?
should we start from the summary or should from the chapters? Okay, so we start from the summary to take a decision. The spiritual legacy of Sri Paramahansa Yogananda. His complete writing, lectures and informal talks. We start from here, okay? Paramahansa Yoganand founded Yogada Satsang Society of India YSS in 1973 and Self-Realization Fellowship SRF in 1920 to disseminate his teachings worldwide and to preserve their purity and integrity for generations to come. A prolific writer and lecturer from his earliest year in America, he created a renowned and voluminous body of works on the yoga science of meditation, the art of balanced living, and the underlying unity of all great religions. Today, this unique and far reaching spiritual legacy lives on, inspiring millions of truth seekers all over the world in accordance with the express wishes of the great Guru. Yogoda Satsang Society of India Self-Realization Fellowship has continued the ongoing task of publishing and keeping permanently in print the complete works of Paramahansa Yoganand. These include not only the final editions of all the books he published during his lifetime, but also many new titles, works that had remained, it's coming in between, remained unpublished at the time of his passing in 1952. ठीक है, ये society is keeping the things alive, on which had been serialized over the years in incomplete form in Yogada Satsanga Society of India Self-Realization Fellowships magazine, as well as hundreds of profoundly inspiring lectures and informal talks recorded but not printed before his passing. Permanent Yoganand personally chose and trained those close disciples who have headed the Yoga Satsanga Society of India Self-Realization Fellowship Publication Council since his passing and gave them specific guidelines for the preparation and publishing of his teachings. The member of YSS SRF Publications Council, monks and nuns who have taken lifelong vows of renunciation and selfless service, honor these guidelines as a sacred trust in order that the universal message of this beloved world teacher will live on in its original power and authenticity. The Yogoda Satsanga Society of India Self Realization Fellowship emblem that is shown on previous page was designated by Paramhansa Yogananda to identify the non-profit society he founded as the authorized source of his teachings. The YSSSRF name and emblem appear on all YSS/SRF publications and recordings, assuring the reader that a work originates with the organization founded by Paramahansa Yoganand and conveys his teachings as he himself intended they be given. So this is the message from Yoganand Satsang Society of India Self-Realization Fellowship.
So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. And we are reading today. We are reading this book. Let me show you. This is the book we are reading. Okay.
Offered unto the divine hands of Sri Sri Swami Sri Yukteswar Giri Maharaj, my blessed, adored, and worshipful Gurudev.
So we have to remember the name Sri Yukteswar Giri Maharaj. He was the Guru. Now these are the chapters. Okay.
Author's acknowledgements. I'm deeply indebted to Miss L.V. Pratt, Tara Mata, for her long editorial labors over the manuscript of this book. My thanks are due also to Mr. Sri C. Richard Wright for permission to use extracts from his Indian travel diary, and to Dr. W. Y. Evan Vance. I'm grateful not only for his preface but also for suggestions and encouragement. So this is like a thank note.
When was it? This thing was written. I think it was in
October 28th of October 1945.
1945. Long back. Okay. Now these are the content. Let's start with chapter 1.
Okay, list of illustration is there then.
So many chapters. Basically, this book is for self-realization, and whosoever wants to follow journey.
So there's a preface. So we
Yeah.
have to
Let's go ahead with preface.
read the preface. So preface is by W. Y. Evan Benst, M.A. D.Lit. D. Science, Jesus College, Oxford. Author and translator of many classic works on yoga and the wisdom tradition of the East, including Tibetan yoga and secret doctrines. Tibet's great yogi Milarepa and the Tibetan Book of the Dead. The value of Yoganand's autobiography is greatly enhanced by the fact that it is one of the few books in English about the wise man of India which have been written not by a generalist or foreigner but by one of their own race and training. In short, a book about yogis by a yogi. As an eyewitness recountal of the extraordinary lives and powers of modern Hindu saints, the book has importance but timely and timeless. Full stop. To its illustration to its illustrious author, whom I have had the pleasure of knowing in both India and America, may every reader render due appreciation and gratitude. His unusual live document is certainly one of the most revealing of all depths of the Hindu mind and heart and of the spiritual wealth of India, ever to be published in the West. It has been my privilege to meet one of the sages whose life history is herein narrated, Sri Yukteswar Giri. A likeness of the venerable saint appeared as part of the frontispiece of my Tibetan yoga and secret doctrines. It was at Puri in Odisha on the Bay of Bengal that I encountered Sri Yukteswar. He was the head of a quiet ashrama near the seashore there and was chiefly occupied in the spiritual training of a group of youthful disciples. He expressed keen interest in the welfare of people of the United States and of all the Americas and England too, and questioned me concerning the distant activities particularly those in California, of his chief disciple Paramahansa Yoganand, whom he dearly loved and whom he had sent in 1920 as his emissary to the West. Sri Yukteswar was a gentleman and voice of pleasing presence and worthy of veneration that his followers spontaneously accorded to him. Every person who knew him, whether of his own community or not, held him in the highest esteem. I vividly recall his tall, straight, ascetic figure, robed in the saffron colored garb of one who has renounced worldly quests, as he stood at the entrance of the hermitage to give me welcome. His hair was long and somewhat curly, and his face bearded. His body was muscularly firm, but slender and well formed, and his step energetic. He had chosen as his place on earthly abode the holy city of Puri, whither multitudes of pious Hindus, representative of every province of India, come daily on pilgrimage to the famed temple of Jagannath, the Lord of the world. It was at Puri that Sri Yukteswar closed his mortal eyes in 1936 to the scene of this transitory state of being and passed on, knowing that his incineration has had been carried to a triumphant completion. I'm glad indeed to be able to record this testimony to the high character and holiness of Sri Yukteswar, content to remain afar from the multitude. He gave himself unreservedly and in tranquility to that ideal life which Paramahansa Yogananda, his disciple, has now described for the ages. Hmm. Worldwide, worldwide acclaimed for Autobiography of a Yogi. Among the thousands of books that are published every year, there are those that entertain, those that instruct, and those that edify. A reader can consider himself fortunate if he finds one that does all three. Autobiography of a Yogi is rather still, it's a book that opens windows of the mind and spirit. This is from an Indian general. A rare account. This is the remark from New York Times. Okay. These pages reveal with incomparable strength and clarity a fascinating life, a personality of such unheard of greatness that from from beginning to the end the reader is left breathless. In these pages is undeniable proof that only the mental and spiritual striving of man has lasting values, and that he can conquer all material obstacles by inner strength. We must credit the important biography with the power of being able, uh, with the power of bring about a spiritual revolution. This is from Schleswig Holstein's Taxpots, Germany, a monumental work. This is the remark from Sheffield Telegraph, England. Sheer revelation, intensely human account
एक समय हमारे
should
साथ, सॉरी टू इंटरप्ट, 20 लोग जुड़ गए।
should help the
अभी
human
एक भी नहीं है,
race.
लेकिन एक दो जुड़ते जाते फिर निकलते जाते हैं। चलो,
तुम ये पढ़ रही हो? पढ़ना है?
हाँ मैं इसे सुन रही हूँ। अब इतनी मेहनत कर रहे हैं तो इसको रिकॉर्ड तो कर ही लेना चाहिए। सभी लोग सुनेंगे ना तो अच्छा रहेगा।
Intensely human account should help the human race to understand itself better.
नहीं, ये
Autobiography.
इसमें तो सिर्फ तारीफ तारीफ लिखी है ना। और ये अपने इसमें अपने गुरु के बारे में इन्होंने यहाँ पहले बोला है ना, गुरु के बारे में कि गुरु कौन है, यही तो बोला है। तो यहाँ तो गुरु की तारीफ लिखी है, लेकिन तभी देखो ना, इनका नाम लिखा हुआ है, ये इनके गुरु हैं। ठीक है, किनके गुरु हैं? इनके गुरु हैं, इनके गुरु हैं ये। तो यहाँ पे तो सब लिखा था। अब ये सभी बड़े बड़े लोगों ने इनकी तारीफ करी है कि इसको पढ़ के सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन इनको जिनको भी हुआ, ये बड़े बड़े लोग हैं और इनके खुद के, ये खुद भी बड़े बड़े ऑथर्स हैं। नहीं, आगे आगे पढ़ते हैं, चलो और क्या लिखा है। मुझे तो कभी समझ में नहीं आई ये बुक।
The content of this book are unusual. The philosophical passages are extremely interesting. Yoganand is one of the spiritual plan above religious differences. China Weekly Review, Shanghai.
ये चाइना के लोगों ने तो किया ही है, इनका सारे लोगों ने किया। और ये अभी कोई अभी का नहीं है, ये कब का तो लिखा होगा। 1945 में तो बुक शायद 41 40 कुछ में तो हुई है ना ये बुक। तो उन्होंने जो प्रीफेस लिखा है ऑथर ने, गजब लिखा है भाई, कितने लोगों ने तारीफ करी है।
In a very readable style, Yoganand presents a convincing case for yoga, and those who come to scoff may remain to pray. San Francisco Chronicle. A fascinating, clearly annotated study. Newsweek. One of the deepest and most important messages of this century. Never Delta Zetone, Australia. One of the most charmingly simple and self-revealing of the life stories, a veritable treasure house of learning. The great personalities one meets in these pages return to memory as friends endowed with the rich spiritual wisdom, and one of the greatest of these is the God intoxicated author himself, remarkable, a rich glimpse of a great soul, Dr. Anna, University, USA. Whether Yoganand talks about deathless saints and miraculous healings, or whether he transmits Indian wisdom and yoga science, the reader is enthralled. This is from Mr. From Switzerland. It's a book by which a reader will see his horizon of thoughts enlarged into the infinite and will realize that his heart is capable of beating for all humans beings irrespective of color and race. It's a book which can be called inspired.
देखो ना, कलर एंड रेस की तो बात यदि देखा जाए तो ये पहले पहले तो न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स का हुआ, ठीक है, तारीफ। फिर उसके बाद जर्मनी वालों का हुआ, ठीक है। उसके बाद कौन है भाई? ये इंडियाना यूएसए के बड़े बड़े लोग हैं। फिर शंघाई चाइना के, ठीक है। फिर ये है सैन फ्रांसिस्को के। देन ऑस्ट्रेलिया, ऑस्ट्रिया है वो। फिर अगेन मिनीसोटा, यूएसए। ये सबसे ठंडी जगह है वर्ल्ड की, मेरा टेम्परेचर इतना ज़्यादा रहता है, ठंडा रहता है। देन स्विट्जरलैंड, ज्यूरिक के ये बंदे हैं। अब ग्रीस वालों की तारीफ सुनो। फिर उसके बाद कौन है? साउथ कैलिफोर्निया वाले हैं। और फिर उसके बाद क्या है? द नोबेल प्राइज विनर, ये थॉमस मैन। इसका इनका पढ़ो।
This renewed contact with the yogi sphere, its mental superiority to material reality, and its spiritual discipline was very instructive for me. I'm grateful to you for granting me some insight into the fascinating world.
ये लंदन वाले भी हैं भाई, और कौन कौन है, तो इनके इसमें तो लिखते हैं
So
इंट्रोडक्शन
we
से।
start with the introduction. The experience of meeting Paramahansa Yogananda is etched in my memory as one of the unforgettable events of my life. As I looked into his face, my eyes were almost dazzled by the radiance, a light of spirituality that literally shone from him. His infinite gentleness, his gracious kindliness enveloped me like warm sunshine. I could see that his understanding and insight extended to the most mundane of the problem, even though he was a man of spirit. In him, I found a true ambassador of India, carrying and spreading the essence of India's ancient wisdom to the world. This is a remark by Dr. Binay R. Sen, US. Okay, so we read further. To those who were personally acquainted with Paramahansa Yoganand, his own life and being were convincing testimony to the power and authenticity of the ancient wisdom he presented to the world. Countless readers of his autobiography have attested to the presence in its pages of that same light and spiritual authority that radiated from him, from his person. Hailed as a masterpiece when it first appeared imprinted in print more than 60 years ago, the book set forth not only the story of a life of unmistakable greatness, but a fascinating introduction to the spiritual thought of the East, especially its unique science of direct personal communion with God.
चलो चैप्टर 1 से चालू करें। इंट्रोडक्शन तो ये बिल्कुल ही भयंकर है, ये बाद में पढ़ते हैं। चैप्टर 1, ये इंडिया उस समय का।
Chapter 1, My Parents and Early Life. The characteristics features of Indian culture have long been a search for ultimate varieties, and the concomitant disciple guru relationship. My own path led to a Christ like sage. His beautiful life was chiseled for the ages. He was one of the great masters who are India's truest wealth, emerging in every generation. They have bulwarked
समझाओ भी तो इसको, हिंदी में क्या बोल रहे हैं।
their land against the fate of ancient Egypt
पेरेंट एंड अर्ली लाइफ,
and Babylonia.
ये क्या बोला है बताओ ना।
आगे बताती हूँ. I find my earliest memories covering the anachronistic features of a previous incarnation.
अर्लीस्ट मेमोरीज कवरिंग द एनक्रोनिस्टिक।
Anachronistic का मतलब time free of time features of previous incarnation.
इनको ये मेमोरी थी पुराने जन्मों की।
Covering the features. Okay, clear recollections came to me of a distant life in which I had been a yogi amid the Himalayan snow.
अरे बाप रे।
These glimpses of the past by some dimensionless link also afforded me a glimpse of the future. Clear?
नहीं समझ में आया।
मतलब he was a yogi in his past life and वो जो पावर था by its power he could also view into the future.
यानी इनको ये याद था पिछले जन्मों का कि वो पहले योगी थे और उस पावर से उनको समझ में आया कि ये जो है recollection came to me distinct life that I was a yogi amid Himalayan snow. बाप रे, these glimpses of past by some dimensionless link, अच्छा dimensionless link वो बोल रहे हैं, also afforded me a glimpse of future.
सो ये जो उनके प्रीवियस के पावर्स थे उनसे वो फ्यूचर का भी वो प्रिडिक्शंस कर पाते थे. आई स्टिल रिमेंबर द हेल्पलेस humiliations of infancy. I was resentfully conscious of being unable to walk and to express myself freely. बचपन में he wasn't able to express himself and walk.
नहीं, वो बहुत छोटे थे ना, लेकिन उनकी मेमोरीज में सब था। तो वो जब चल भी नहीं पाते थे और एक्सप्रेस भी नहीं कर पाते थे, एक छोटा बच्चा थोड़ी कह सकता है मेरे को पिछले जन्म का ये याद है या वो याद है ना? ये वाली बात बोली है इन्होंने।
prayerful, prayerful surges arose within me as I realized my bodily importance. मतलब वो हेल्पलेसनेस जब वो फील करते थे इम्पोर्टेंट टाइप का फील करते थे तो उनके अंदर में प्रेयरफुल प्रेयरफुल उनका कॉन्शियस हो जाता था. माई स्ट्रॉन्ग इमोशनल लाइफ वॉज मेंटली एक्सप्रेस्ड in words of many languages. Amid the inward confusion of tongues, I gratefully became accustomed to hearing the Bengali syllables of my people. The Bengali spoke of an infant's mind, adultly, adultly considered to be limited to toys and toes. Okay, further. Psychological ferment
इधर
and
पटक लो
my
ना, हाथ दुख गया इसको उठा
unresponsive
उठा के।
body, psychological ferment and my unresponsive body brought me to many obstinate crying spells. Obstacle type की crying spells में आ जाती थी ferment of my unresponsive body. Like अपने childhood को recall कर रहे हैं. I recall the general family bewilderment at my distress. Happier memories too crowd in on me. My mother's caresses and my first attempts at lisping praise and toddling steps. These early triumphs, usually forgotten quickly, are yet a natural basis of self confidence. My far reaching memories are not unique. Many yogis
तरफ कर लो।
are known to have retained their self-consciousness without interruption by the dramatic transition to the from to and from life and death. Self-consciousness uh, without interruption by the dramatic transition to and from life and death.
मतलब कि थ्रू आउट लाइफ में उनको क्या होता था, सेल्फ कॉन्शियसनेस के बारे में वो नोन टू हैव रिटेन देयर सेल्फ कॉन्शियसनेस। अच्छा, कुछ योगी ऐसे होंगे, उनके बारे में बोल रहे हैं।
If man be solely a body, it, its loss indeed ends his identity. As soon as the man loses the body, identity khatam. But if prophets down the millenniums spake with truth, man is essentially a soul, incorporeal and omnipresent. Okay, although odd, clear memories of infancy are not extremely rare. During travels in numerous lands, I've heard very early recollections from the lips of veracious men and women. I was born on January 12th. I was born on
देख तो
January
रानी,
5,
हाथ दुख गया, इसको पकड़े पकड़े कुछ
I,
इसके कुछ किताब या कुछ सहारा रख लें क्या नीचे?
I was born
क्या
on
रखें?
January 6th.
कुशन रख के देखते हैं।
But then we keep it tilted now.
नहीं दिख, अब तो और नहीं दिख रहा।
I was born on January 5, 1893 in Gorakhpur in northeastern India near the Himalaya mountains. There my first 8 years were passed. We were 8 children, 4 boys and 4 girls. In Mukunda Lal Ghosh, Mukund Lal Ghosh, was the second son and the fourth child. Father and mother were Bengalis of the Kshatriya caste. Both were blessed with saintly nature. Their mutual love, tranquil and dignified, never expressed itself frivolously. A perfect parental harmony was the calm center for the revolving tumult of 8 young lives. Father Bhagwati Charan Ghosh was kind, grave, at times stern. Okay, father was sometimes he was brave, sometimes like as father. Loving him dearly, we children yet observed a certain reverential distance. An outstanding mathematician and logician, he was guided principally by his intellect. But mother was a queen of heart and taught us only through love. After death, his mom passed away, father displayed more of his inner tenderness. I noticed that I noticed then that his gaze often seemed to be metamorphosed into my mother's gaze. In mother's presence, we children made an early bittersweet acquaintance with the scriptures. Mother would resourcefully summon from the Mahabharata and the Ramayana suitable tales to meet the exigencies of discipline. On the occasions, uh, chastisement and instruction went hand in hand. Chastise the kids and instruct the kids, है ना, was something which was done by mother using the scriptures Mahabharata Ramayana. As a gesture of respect for father, in the afternoon, mother would dress us children carefully to welcome him home from the office. He held a position similar to that of a VP in one of the India's large companies.
सोचो यानी
Bengal,
उस जमाने में वीपी की रैंक और इनकी इंग्लिश देखो, क्या खतरनाक है भाई।
Bengal
कोई नहीं बोल
National Railway.
पाता आज ऐसी अंग्रेजी।
His work involved traveling. Our family lived in several cities during my childhood. Mother held an open hand towards the needy. Father was also kindly disposed, but his respect for law and order extended to the budget. One fortnight, mother spent in feeding the poor more than father's monthly income. All I asked Please, father said, is that you keep your charities within a reasonable limit. Even a gentle rebuke from her husband was grievous to mother, not hinting to the children at any disagreement. She ordered a hackney carriage. Goodbye. I'm going away to my mother's home. Ancient ultimatum. We broke into astounded lamentations. Our maternal uncle arrived opportunely. He whispered to father some sage counsel, garnered no doubt from the ages. After father had made a few conciliatory remarks, mother happily dismissed the cab. Thus ended the only trouble I ever noticed between my parents. But I recall a characteristic discussion. Please give me 10 rupees for a hapless woman who had just arrived at the house. Mother's smile had its own
Persuasion.
persuasion. Why 10 rupees? One is enough. Father added a justification. When my father and grandparents died suddenly, I had my first experience of poverty. My only breakfast before walking miles to my school was a small banana. Later, at the university, I was in such need that I applied to a wealthy judge for aid of 1 rupee per month. He declined, remarking that even a rupee is important. How bitterly you recall the denial of that rupee. Mother's heart had an intent logic. Do you want this woman also to remember painfully your refusal of 10 rupees, which she needs urgently? You win. With the immemorial gesture of vanquished husbands, he opened his wallet. Here is a 10 rupee note. Give it to her with my goodwill. Father tended first to say no at any new proposal. His attitude toward the stranger, who so readily had won mother's sympathy, was an example of his customary caution. An aversion to acceptance is really only honoring to intent acceptance is really only honoring the principle of due reflection. I always found father reasonable and evenly balanced in his judgments. If I could bolster up my numerous requests with one or two good arguments, he would invariably put within my reach the coveted goal, whether a vacation trip or a new motorcycle. My father was a strict disciplinarian to his children in their
मोटरसाइकिल के
early
बारे में क्या बोला?
ये अपने फादर का बता रहे हैं कि with one of the two good arguments he would invariably put within my reach यानी if he argued उसके पापा वेकेशन के ट्रिप और न्यू मोटरसाइकिल प्रोवाइड करते थे अगर आपने उसको आर्गूमेंट सही दे दिए तो father was a strict disciplinarian to his children in their early years, but his attitude towards himself was truly uh, Spartan. Spartan. He never visited the theater, for instance, but sought his recreation in various spiritual practices, and in reading the Bhagavad Gita. Shunning all luxuries, he would cling to one old pair of shoes until they were useless. His sons bought his son bought automobiles after they came into popular use. यह कोई पॉपुलर उनके वो बिल्कुल
कविता
उसके
सुनो, फ्रिज में तरबूज कटा रखा, जरा 2 प्लेट में लगा के देना ना हमको और राशि दीदी को।
है ना, यानी कि फादर खुद तो सिंपल थे, पर जो भी पॉपुलर चीज होती थी बच्चों को दे देते थे।
उन्होंने पिक्चर भी नहीं देखी है ना,
पढ़ाई करते थे भगवत गीता। फादर वॉज नॉट इंटरेस्टेड इन द accumulation of money for the sake of power. On one occasion, after he had organized the Calcutta Urban Bank,
सुनो सबके लिए बचाना उस हिसाब से देना।
इनके फादर ने कलकत्ता after he organized the Calcutta Urban Bank, he refused to benefit himself holding any of its shares. He had simply wished to perform a civic duty in his spare time. Several years after father had retired on a pension, an accountant from England came to India to examine the books of Bengal Nagpur Railway. The amazed investor discovered that father had never applied for overdue bonuses. He did the work of 3 men, the accountant told the company. He had rupees 1.25 lakhs, okay, owing to him as back compensation. The treasurer sent father a check for that moment. The treasurer sent him a check for that moment. A check of that amount. Check of that amount. My parent thought so little about the matter that he forgot to mention it
ये
to
उनके
the family.
ये मदर है या फादर है?